Dear friends, this is Bishop Daniel Thomas of the Diocese of Toledo. Please join me now in praying together our diocesan prayer. Heavenly Father, with the redeeming cross of Christ Jesus, your Son, and the gifts of your Holy Spirit, renew and strengthen us, so that by our prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, we may foster holy disciples, holy families, and holy vocations, so as to become a more holy Diocese of Toledo. We turn to Our Lady, Queen of the Most Holy Rosary, for her intercession and never-failing prayers. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Annunciation Radio presents Faith Alive, highlighting the many ways Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo provides love and support for those in need. And now, your host for Faith Alive, Executive Director of Catholic Charities in Toledo, Rodney Schuster.
Hello and welcome to Faith Alive, the program that shares how the love of Jesus Christ is provided through the ministries of Catholic Charities throughout the Diocese of Toledo. I'm your host, Rodney Schuster, Executive Director for Catholic Charities, and so glad to have you on board with us this week. You know, before the holidays, I was sharing with you a lot of the opportunities to engage in what we call Project Bethelhem. And Project Bethelhem is an opportunity for folks to provide gifts for kids who are in need. And we have that program throughout all of our ministries in the diocese, so in Mansfield, in Norwalk, in Toledo. And I just want to share with you that blessing for the moms, the dads, and the children is beyond words, beyond joy. So we thought it would be important, first of all, to thank you for all of you who participate in this. And we're going to talk to each of our offices, and they're going to share how beautiful Project Bethelhem was for so many people at Catholic Charities. So our first guest is Lori Hamrick, who is from our Mansfield office and was responsible for Project Bethelhem in our Mansfield office. Lori, welcome to Faith Alive.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
We are doing great. So share a little bit about Project Bethelhem in Mansfield. How many people did you help? Perhaps share some of the folks that moved you a little bit, because it was such a, so special this time of year in helping people.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we began our campaign in August, and we reached out to our current sponsors, and we did some outreach to some new civic groups, and they agreed to provide gifts for some of our elderly clients in the nursing homes. So they were very impressed with how our program operates for Project Bethelhem, and they've also offered to help throughout the year with other needs for our clients. So that was really good outreach for that. We had 6 new sponsors this year as a result of our outreach for various places. We had 18 sponsors in total, so individuals, parishes and churches, organizations and businesses. We provided gifts for 32 adults in our Community Emergency Services program, which also includes our 3E program, which provides on-site case management at the employee's place of business where they work. And so we were able to help people in that program as well. And then we helped 28 seniors in our Adult Advocacy Services program.
Wow, that is a lot of people that we helped in our Mansfield office. And perhaps, share what are some of the things that we received from sponsors, and then maybe share a little bit about when we were able to give the gifts to some of these folks.
Absolutely. So we've been partnering with St. Peter's Parish for several years, and their parishioners are very generous. They provided several clients, 22 Community Emergency Services clients, with gifts, so that was really wonderful this year. one of the sponsors that we have that has helped several years now, they actually contact their person that we sponsor to shop for what they need. And so we had a lady who had been sleeping on a pile of blankets on the floor of a basement where she was staying. She was one of our 3E clients, and so she did find her own place, but she didn't have a bed or anything to sleep on. So the sponsor reached out to the client, and they went shopping with the client. They were able to pick out the bed, sheet, comforter, and the mattress, of course. And the client was very, very overwhelmed and very grateful for the outpouring of generosity from the sponsor. We also had several formerly homeless clients that we provided pots and pans, towels, sheets, general home items.
You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guest is Lori Hamrick, who headed up our Project Bethlehem efforts in our Mansfield office. Lori, I have to believe, while the person that we helped as far as go shopping, I have to believe that the person that went with to help purchase those items, for both of them, it must just have been a special and moving experience.
Absolutely. It was a group of people that are in this group that help all year. They also help at Thanksgiving as well for some of our clients. So it was very, very, I was very moved by by hearing about it.
Well, because
we were able
so
to
many
make
times
this lady's life a better, better for her.
Yeah, so many times when, and we're so thankful for so many people who support Catholic Charities, either through gifts like through Project Bethlehem or financial, you don't have that opportunity for interaction with those that you're serving. And what a blessing that is for both parties, the giver and the receiver, to be together and to help them. I have to believe. And then for you just kind of sit and watch and soak it all up. That's just got to be a blessing upon blessing.
Absolutely.
So any other stories that you want to share of folks that we helped that were maybe standing out of ordinary? Now, you mentioned 3E program. Share for the audience a little bit what that means, 3E, and how we help employers, because not everybody is maybe as familiar as you and I are.
Okay. So 3E stands for Empower, Encourage, Engage, and it's to help those who are employed stay employed. So we do on-site case management at their business or where they work at the factory or so forth. We have met several people on site each week. Our case managers go out and meet with them so they don't have to miss work to come to us. And so we do, budgeting, we do assessments to see what their needs are. A lot of them have housing, transportation, child care problems, and that's what causes them to lose their job if they don't have a ride to work. So we work with those folks to arrange for transportation. We work with them to find housing, and if we're able to pay for housing, to move them into a place, we do that. And we also help link them with child care options and other, food pantry. A lot of them are food insecure right now. A lot of people are going through that. And so we just kind of do a wraparound, see what they need, and see how we can link them to other services in the community.
You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guest is Lori Hamrick, who's talking about the Project Bethlehem efforts in Mansfield and just some of the blessings that came forward because of that. So, Lori, any other folks that we helped that really stand out in your mind that made it special this past year?
Well, I heard from Laura. Laura is our program manager for Adult Advocacy Services program. And the folks that she serves are folks in the nursing home. So they do not have family. They don't have people that visit them. And so our volunteer guardians and Laura, they go to the nursing homes and meet with their folks several times a month. And these folks are a priority with us for Christmas time. And so every one of them got gifts, and they were very, very happy with what they got. A lot of them just needed basic things, slippers, robes, even food, like treats, things they don't normally get at the nursing home. And so they were very, very thankful for all the generosity for the sponsors. And as I said, most of the new sponsors that we had this year were from Laura's efforts with the Adult Advocacy Services program, so they were able to serve her clients as well. So it was very, very good program this year. We're very happy with the results.
So, Lori, I know it's a lot of effort every year for Project Bethlehem, and we've got a minute left. What does it mean to you personally to be involved in Project Bethlehem to help others during the Christmas season?
Well, it's just a way that we can reach out to those in need that have been in our programs all year, and it's a way for us to reach out to them and be the hands and feet of Jesus in their lives.
That's awesome. And I just want to, let everyone know in the future, if you want to get involved, and it doesn't just have to be Project Bethlehem, but with any of our ministries in helping families or helping people, as Lori mentioned, with the 3E program in Mansfield, feel free to reach out to us. Lori, what's a good number for people to get in touch with you?
My number is 419-524-0733, extension 226.
One more time.
419-524-0733, extension 226. Thank you.
Awesome. Lori, thank you so much. We're going to head to break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Greetings in Christ Jesus, everyone. This is Bishop Daniel Thomas. As we continue our Living Christ Diocesan Capital Campaign, I know that many of you have already stepped forward with a generous investment in the future of our local church. Thank you for your generosity. Many more will be asked for your participation in the coming months as we move toward our overall goal of $65 million. Folks, already our pilot wave of parishes and our first wave of parishes have now, with only 33 parishes, reached 45% of our overall goal. Now we enter Wave 2 with 45 parishes, and next spring, Wave 3 with the same number of parishes. This diocesan-wide initiative provides opportunities to support important endowment, programmatic, and capital needs to preach the gospel and witness to Christ Jesus throughout our 122 parishes and pastoral ministries. These areas, folks, include strengthening our parishes, because the parish gets 35% of every dollar, supporting our clergy, increasing Catholic Charities services, building upon and maintaining the excellence of our Catholic schools, restoring our Mother Church, and forming lay leaders with education and training for service to the faithful. Friends, this Living Christ campaign is seeing tremendous support, and I thank you if you've already made a pledge or a gift, and I invite you, if you've not yet done so, to do so when your parish goes into the wave for our Diocesan Capital Campaign, so that all of us may be caught up in living Christ throughout the Diocese of Toledo, because together we will maintain the vitality of our local church for this generation and beyond. God bless you, and thank you.
Now, back to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo.
Welcome back to Faith Alive. I'm Rodney Schuster, and this program we're dedicating to sharing the awesome work of Project Bethlehem throughout our offices in the Diocese of Toledo. As you just heard, Lori Hamrick shared some of the awesome work and donations and people involved with Project Bethlehem there, and just how it just touches people's lives. I mean, to think about someone who is, living on a floor and working and not having anything, but to have sponsors come forward from special places like St. Pete's in Mansfield. For this segment, we've got on Deb Orth, who's from our Norwalk office and responsible for all of our Project Bethlehem efforts there. Deb, welcome to Faith Alive.
Thank you, Rodney.
So share a little bit about, how many people we served, how many sponsors there were, Was it different this year than in past years? And just how did it hit you personally?
Okay. We actually have 3 programs in Norwalk. We have our CES program, which is the community outreach, which Brianna Mance handles. And then we have the Miriam House, which is our transitional housing for women and children, and Gina Benoit handles that. And then I do the adult advocacy services here at the office. And we had a tremendous outpouring of gifts and money. Ever since COVID, we've had quite a few people who have said they'd prefer to just donate money and then we'd buy the gifts. So we're a little different than some of the other ones because we've continued that. But this year was different for me because in previous years, even when COVID was really bad, I was able to order stuff through Amazon and it would come right away. Well, this year we had a hard time, and I had to actually end up canceling things and going to the stores and buying things. We had, for just Brianna's program, she had 17 sponsors and 92 individuals that she was able to help. That included adults and children. For the Miriam House, there's 4 moms and 10 children that live at the Miriam House right now. They had 19 sponsors, and these sponsors go nuts because of the children, I think. Every child in the house got a bike this year, and on top of everything else that they got. But I thought that was tremendous when she told me every child got a bike. Wow, that's wonderful. And then we had 95 of our clients that we handled. The others were at OVH. Part of OVH's thing, one of the floors, there was a sponsor that went into OVH and said, I'd like to buy stuff for all the men or the people on this floor. So a few of ours were in there. So we only handled 95 of ours, and we had 24 sponsors. But we were able to give gifts to all 95 of ours also.
Amazing. That is just amazing. And Deb, how would that compare to years past? I mean, was this a lot more in the way of sponsors and the number of people we helped? Because my quick tally in my mind, which could be off. I mean, that's more than 200 people we helped, right?
Yes.
So is that more than we've done in the past, and more sponsors we've done in the past? Or?
I think probably CES went way up and above. As far as our office, we've been around 100 people that we've been helping every year, and so that's around the same amount. But I think CES with Brianna, I think hers went up quite a bit because I don't remember there being 92 people that she helped previously. And our building was full of presents everywhere. As people would bring the presents in, and we'd store them here until they went out. And so we just had presents everywhere before Christmas.
You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guest is Deb Orth, and she's talking about the blessing of Project Bethlehem in our Norwalk office, where we helped 3 different ministries in Norwalk. Our Miriam House, which is our women and children shelter, our Community Emergency Services Program, which is our outreach program, and then, of course, our Adult Advocacy Program, where we help the elderly. In some respect, we're the only family, if you will, of those who are serving in elder care centers. So 3 main areas of thrust, and you can, from what Deb just described, the number of sponsors that came forward are just amazing. So, Deb, I mean, just you sharing that with me is just intimidating. How on earth did you all guys, keep track of all the gifts, all the sponsors? And then the next part is, how did you hand them all out?
Well, it takes a village. The guardians here in our office were the ones that took them to their clients. They made sure if they couldn't go to a client themselves, then they made sure one of the other guardians or someone else was able to take it to them. Brianna's people, for the most part, stopped in and picked up their items for the community outreach. And, of course, Miriam House, they're there. So, right. But I have to thank Kathy Phillips for handling the money side of the Norwalk office, the AAS program, because as the money came in, she was keeping track of it for me. So she'd say, okay, you have this much money you can spend. And so that was wonderful. And then Brianna, of course, handled all of her clients and her sponsors.
So. And can you share any interactions with folks that we served? Anything that's stood out to you as far as that was really meaningful, really emotional, as far as people that we helped?
Okay, this one actually wasn't considered under the Project Bethlehem program, but it was one of our sponsors from Project Bethlehem called the office and said someone had told her that they had a washer and dryer they needed to get rid of, so she thought of us. Mm-hmm. So I went to Brianna, who handles the community outreach, and I said, do you have anybody that needs a washer and dryer? And she said, yes, I do. So she called someone. She tried to call this person. And when she called, she's talking to this lady, and she's telling her, I have a washer and a dryer. And the woman on the other end is crying because she needed a washer, and she's been praying for it. And it wasn't even the person she thought she was calling. And so all of us were crying. We were all like, oh, this is such a miracle. God stepped in and got this woman who needed it. She had children at home, and so she needed to get, a washer to get the clothes washed for her children. And that was just such a blessing and such a wonderful thing to happen.
You listen to Faith Alive, and our guest is Deb Orth, and she's sharing just one of the many stories of Project Bethlehem in our Norwalk office. Deb, for you personally, I mean, you've been doing this for a number of years, and it's a tremendous amount of effort in trying to organize and coordinate all of the recipients who need help, and then all of the sponsors. So through that craziness, through all that work, what's it like for you to be part of that?
Well, it makes me pray a lot. I feel like it's my personal responsibility to make sure all of these people have a gift. Mm-hmm. And so I pray so hard to the Lord to make sure that that people come, our sponsors do come through, that we need to be able to give a gift to all these people. So that's just been just a spiritual gift to me. Even though it's a lot of work, the Lord is in there the whole time. He's in there helping us get everything that we need and get it out to these people. Beautiful.
And are there any sponsors that stood out to you? Like, were there any new sponsors, or just, sponsors that every year come and help out that stood out to you?
Well, we did have one sponsor who retired from our office this year, and she came back and wrapped gifts for us. So that was really nice. I do have another sponsor who actually lives in Toledo, and she sends us a nice check every year for that. She's been doing it, I think, while she was pre-COVID, she would buy items. And then when COVID hit, she said, is it okay if I just send you money? So she sends us a nice check every year. And then there's a few other businesses in the area and churches. I mean, everybody. It just seems like everybody stepped up and helped us.
And how do you communicate out to people to get the sponsors? I mean, is it pretty much everybody knows and you don't even have to seek help, or is it? Do you have to do any type of public relations to get the word out?
Well, we send out letters. Brianna and I both send out letters to previous sponsors and people that we think might be able to be sponsors that haven't done it previously. Also, as I'm at church or in programs for church or whatever, I'll mention it to people. Oh, we do this Project Bethlehem at Catholic Charities. Are you interested in helping out? And tell them what's needed. And we pick up people everywhere.
You're listening to Faith Alive. Our guest is Deb Orth, who's talking about the Project Bethlehem results from our Norwalk office. And, again, we just want to thank all of you in our listening audience who are participate in that and help in any one of our locations, because what the intention is for people who don't have the resources to get gifts for their family, their children's, or in the case of our Helping the Elderly in our Adult Advocacy Services program, where they really don't have anyone as far as family to help be with them and support them. So we're just so grateful for all the support of everyone to help with our Project Bethlehem efforts in each of our offices, and we're thankful for Deb to be sharing, how Norwalk responded, which Gosh, it's just amazing. And Deb, I have to believe for you, it's just, again, must be a special, well, again, a lot of work. It must be very special for you just to see the outpouring of generosity, but then also to see how many people it helps.
Oh, definitely.
So, but Christmas is one, part of the year. And I know that each of the ministries that you just mentioned, our community outreach, Miriam House, and our adult advocacy services, what are some things that are ongoing? I mean, and we're blessed. I mean, we're blessed with volunteers. We're blessed with people supporting our Project Bethelhem efforts. But, that's one time of year, and we have needs, for the entire year. So what are some of the things that that we could use in any or all of those programs at Catholic Charities?
Probably the biggest one right now is that Miriam House. They need to replace their roof and their back porch. And so there's actually a campaign going on right now in Norwalk to get some donations to help pay for the roof and the porch, because those are going to be very expensive, especially even though it's a house. It actually is a house that houses these women and children, and so it has to be inspected and everything more than it would have to be if it was just on my house or your house or whatever.
Right.
So it's going to be quite costly to get this done for these women, and that's very important. Something that we really need.
And if people want to learn more about it, what's the best number to call, and who should they ask for to learn more about this project at Miriam House?
Okay, they can call our office. It's 419-668-3073, and they can leave a message with me, or if I'm not here, Brianna, who is at 8214. That's her extension. She actually is in contact with Miriam House quite a bit, so she would be a good one to talk to.
Give those numbers once more, Deb.
It's 419-668-3073, and Brianna's extension is 8219. I'm sorry, 8214. 8214.
Got it. Well, Deb, thank you so much for all of your efforts to help with Project Bethelhem. And thank all of you who supported our Norwalk office. We're going to be heading to break, and we'll be right back.
Courage, an apostolate of the Catholic Church, ministers to persons with same-sex attractions and their loved ones. They also have an outreach called Encourage, which ministers to relatives, spouses, and friends of persons with same-sex attractions. Endorsed by the Pontifical Council for the Family, our beloved John Paul II said of this ministry, "Courage is doing the work of God." Please visit the Courage website, couragerc.org, to learn more and find a Courage chapter near you.
I'm Peter Range, Executive Director of Ohio Right to Life, and I'm a strong supporter of the Culture Project International. Friends, the foundation for the pro-life movement is the family. To rebuild the family, then, it's important we begin having those tough conversations with our kids about the purpose and meaning of sex, the value of the human person, and the dangers of social media. The Culture Project is an initiative of young people to address these fundamental issues. Please schedule them today at thecultureproject.org and support their mission to rebuild the family and rebuild our culture.
Thinking about separation or divorce? Retrovi is a Christian peer ministry designed to help troubled couples regain the health of their marriage. It helps spouses reawaken the love, trust, and commitment that originally brought them together. Retrovi has helped tens of thousands of couples around the world. To learn more about Retrovi or to register for a weekend near you, call 1-800-470-2230 or visit us on the web at www.helpourmarriage.com.
Every day, abortion affects the lives of thousands of women. But for every woman affected, there is a man who has also lost a child. Too often, we as men don't think we can feel hurt or sadness over this loss. But there is help and there is hope. If you or someone you know has experience with abortion, please reach out to the Joseph Ministry at 419-299-6660 or visit CatholicCharitiesNWO.org for more information. God wants you to return to Him and to experience the love and mercy that is waiting you as His beloved Son.
Now, back to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo.
Welcome back to Faith Alive. I'm Rodney Schuster, Executive Director for Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Toledo. And so far we've talked to folks from Mansfield, from Norwalk, and we're sharing the blessings of Project Bethelhem, both on so many people who sponsored individuals and in our different ministries, as well as some of the recipients, and just how it helps change lives. And as all of you know, the Christmas season is just, the celebration of the birth of Christ and the joy and happiness. And to see lives changed and young people especially as they light up to see the beautiful gifts that are given, we just wanted to devote this entire hour in this program to Project Bethelhem and share some of the beautiful, beautiful stories of, again, both those who have given and those who have received. For this segment, we've got on Willie Meyer, who heads up our facilities and our Project Bethelhem efforts at La Posada. Willie, welcome to Faith Alive.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going great. And just a little side note, and I guess we can do this, Willie. Willie and I are both Green Bay Packer fans, and of course they lost to the Detroit Lions. And, our season's over, and so is the Lions. So at least the Lions could have been in playoffs to play, at the win. But, oh, well, Willie, we'll get over it, right?
Yes, we will.
And the reason we can get over it is because we want to share about Project Bethelhem. So share a little bit about how many folks we served at La Posada. And, of course, for those of you who don't know, La Posada is our emergency family shelter where we'll have up to 10 families a night in La Posada and their children, which we could, we've had numbers almost as high as 40 people in La Posada in that shelter. It's an old rectory next to Immaculate Conception, and you can believe it gets a little crazy during the holidays. So, Willie, share a little bit about Project Bethelhem, the sponsors, the people we helped, and just, any special stories that really stand out to you.
I think the first thing that comes off is that we had to start it out with 9 sponsors. And then as the word got out and as people were hearing the story about Project Bethelhem, we ended up picking up 6 additional sponsors, which was a tremendous blessing because we received 3 new families between Thanksgiving and the 5th or 6th of December. So having that additional support from our community was very, very welcomed. So, when you almost have a 2/3 increase in your sponsors, and that covers the 3 additional families, which totaled about 15 individuals, I mean, that speaks volumes to the effort of getting the word out, both in print and media, such as Annunciation Radio.
And share a little bit about the sponsors, and did they come to you? Did you have to seek them, or is a combination thereof? And were you surprised by anybody that came forward?
3 of the sponsors that stepped up are individuals and groups who have worked with us over the years, off and on in support of our families. So when they heard about Project Bethelhem, and I gave them more information, they said, we'd like to do that. Another situation was last year, we had a young man who was volunteering from St. John's, and he went home and talked to his family about his volunteer experience. As a result, his father sent me an email and asked if they could be a sponsor for Project Bethelhem. And I said, absolutely. And just so happened, God provides, we had a family come in that very day. So I gave him the list. Their whole family went out and purchased the Christmas gifts that were being suggested. They wrapped them, and they brought them back to the shelter on the assigned day. I reached out to him this year and asked if he'd like to participate again, and he said, please allow us to do that. Sent him the list. He and his family went out. 2 days later, his wife brought all of the gifts in, all wrapped, nicely marked. And that's the kind of stuff that ends up happening on a pretty regular basis. We also had a whole church school. Each grade took an individual in each of 3 families, and so they brought all those gifts in. So it's a lot of different ways of Project Bethlehem, and whatever works for the individual or the sponsor or group or the agency. And you see the creativity, and you just kind of step back and allow it to happen.
You listen to Faith Alive, and our guest is Willie Meyer, who heads up the facilities of La Posada, our emergency family shelter here in Toledo. And he's sharing, first of all, from the sponsors that came forward for our Project Bethlehem efforts this past Christmas. So, Willie, then the next step, share some of the responses of the folks opening up gifts and what that was like for you.
It was a little bit different this year because I wasn't quite there when the gifts were being opened. But what I heard prior to Christmas Eve and shortly thereafter on late Christmas Day, the reaction from the adults, from the moms and the dads, was absolutely breathtaking. They really were, in some cases, in awe of the generosity and the depth that people went to provide a very nice Christmas for their families. It's a treat on the one side, and then it's like a burden because now they've had that experience, and now what can they do? And one mom said to me, I think just signing a Christmas card, thank you, just isn't enough. And I said, well, what would you like to do? And so she sat her kids down, and each one of them wrote a little note. And that's the kind of stuff that you just can't make up. That's the kind of stuff that you just can't put together. That's the kind of stuff that comes right out of the heart.
And Willie, for you, this effort, and as we've talked to our team in Mansfield and Norwalk, it's a tremendous amount of effort to get sponsors, to get specific items for those that we're serving, get the gifts, put them away, if you will, or put them aside until people come in. So for you and the team, I mean, that's just got to be so overwhelming. But the end result being that it's the birthday of Jesus that we're celebrating, how does that put things in perspective for you and the team?
Well, it's a long 7 days, 2 days shorter than La Posada, but it's a long 7 days because it's all that coordination and keeping the gifts in a secure environment so they can be enjoyed by the respective families, and making sure that there are sufficient gifts for everybody. We had one family, the donor didn't quite understand the directions, but that happens, and they brought the stuff in and none of it was labeled. So I ended up going through and kind of figuring out, okay, which family did it go to, which takes a little extra effort, a little extra time. And I knew there were some things that they were suggested and I didn't see in that bundle, but we had donors from Regina Chaley and from St. Joe's Maumee who just brought stuff in when some of the gifts that they brought in were what these young children were hoping for. So we kind of substituted and, made it a more complete Christmas package for them. So there's just a little bit more effort, a little bit more work that needs to be done. And, we had a good crew of volunteers. I had about 7 or 8 that assisted. So we really were able to stay on top of things and, get the gifts distributed in a timely manner so, people could enjoy Christmas. You
listen to Willie Meyer, who heads up the facilities at La Posada, and he's sharing about the blessing of Project Bethelhem for La Posada here in our Toledo area. So, Willie, with all the effort and all the coordination and all the organization, is it worth it?
Yes.
Is it worth continuing to do that?
Oh, yeah.
And what makes it worth it? I knew you'd say yes, so that was an easy question.
Easy question.
But what makes it worth it to you and to the team there?
I think what makes it worth it is, families who we've worked with and served over the past year are the families who are recipients of these gifts. So it gives us another opportunity to see these families again through our community health worker. And having that second opportunity to see them, talk with them, find out how they're doing, what's going on in their lives is very rewarding in that respect, because otherwise, we wouldn't have that kind of contact. Because once the family leaves us and goes into a more permanent living situation for their family, our hope and prayer always is that they've got the resources and the skill set necessary to maintain it. And, once in a while they'll reach back out and say, I'm struggling a little bit, and I think I'm going to need some assistance for X or for Y. But typically we always end up seeing those families who we've worked with over the year right around the time of Project Bethelhem, because they are a part of the program at that point and are eligible to have a sponsor assigned to them. So getting that second shot to look at them, see how they're doing, hear about their successes over the past year or their failures, what were their struggles and how did they work through them. I think that's the benefit of having the Project Bethelhem. The gifts aside and the sponsors aside, when you hear about what they've been able to do and how they've been able to do it and how they've used the information and the materials that they obtained at La Posada during their stay to take care of those bumps in the road, those valleys that they in years past would have just struck them down. That's the rewarding part.
You're listening to Faith Alive, and our guest is Willie Meyer. And Willie, I would think too that we never know the fruits of the labor and of us trying to be Christ-like to those who come to us. And I have to imagine that, there are some folks who we've helped, maybe some children who we've helped, that at some point in their lives they're going to say, when I was at La Posada, the way they treated us, the way they were so generous to us, and not only the staff but sponsors, I know I have a life worth living because there are people who are willing to do things to help. Do you ever think about that as you're, doing all that effort getting ready for the Project Bethelhem? We've
had individuals come back and say they'd like to do volunteer work. We've had individuals come back and, update us as to, how things are going and what's new. I'll tell this one story, a family that was part of La Posada and then part of Project Bethelhem. And
Really, we're gonna get ready for break.
Okay.
So why don't you hold on to that story?
Yep.
And when we get back from break, why don't you share about that? And looking forward to hearing about it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Are you or someone you know hurting from a past abortion? Contact Project Rachel for confidential help in starting your healing journey. Please call 419-260-5811 or visit hopeafterabortion.org. God's mercy is abundant and waiting for you. Project Rachel is here to offer confidential help on your journey to healing.
Isn't life an awesome gift? Married couples have the power to co-create an eternal life with God that will last forever. God has also designed us so that we can plan our families effectively, naturally, and without chemicals or barriers. Learn natural family planning in English or Spanish through classes or home study from the Couple to Couple League. Visit ccli.org or call 800-745-8252.
When I was in college, I ended up having a lot of questions about my faith, and I ended up leaving the church. After a series of personal tragedies, I really felt a need to come home to a church, and that's when I came back to the Catholic Church. I never realized before that we get, at every Mass, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Psalms, and the Gospel. I never realized before it's all biblically based. The Catholic Church is based on the Bible. This is the church that Christ started, and we practice all the sacraments as He gave them to us, and I think that's important. I love getting up and going to church. I love going to Mass. I feel like I get to go to Mass, not like I have to go to Mass. I have joy in my spirit. I have a lightness in my spirit that I haven't had before. I love the Catholic Church with all my heart, and I can't imagine my life without it. My life is totally different now.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church for whatever reason, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
Now, back to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster, Executive Director of Catholic Charities here in the Diocese of Toledo.
Welcome back to Faith Alive, and today's program we are sharing some of the beautiful, beautiful stories of sponsors who step forward for our Project Bethlehem efforts in all of our offices in Mansfield, Norwalk, and Toledo. And we didn't get Helping Hands or we didn't get Sandusky, but in every one of our offices, people came forward to help families, individuals, the elderly, in need during this Christmas season. And our guest for this segment is Willie Meyer, who heads up La Posada. And Willie, before break, we were talking about an example that you wanted to share, a story that you wanted to share of somebody that was helped at La Posada with Project Bethlehem.
Yeah, she had been there. She was pregnant at the time, and ended up delivering while she was at La Posada, and she ended up having twins. And we were at a function raising funds for La Posada, and all of a sudden from across the hall, I hear, "Mr. Willie." And I looked, and it was her, and she came, with her white shirt and black vest and black pants, and she came driving on over, and, "How are you doing? What are you doing here? I didn't think you liked cars." I really don't like cars. They get me from point A to point B. But we're, they're raising money for the shelter. And, "Oh, this is great. And she says, "If you need anything, you let me know. I'll make sure you get it." And, I kind of watched her as the evening went on, and she worked her tail off. I mean, she had such commitment to making sure that the guests that were there for that function were taken care of, and she was smiling. And this is a lady who, she came in and she had a long face, and she argued from the first moment she walked through the door. And so when you see that kind of change in an individual who has had twins and now is working a full-time job, and not a stress-free job by no stretch of the imagination, having done food service myself, and still be able to acknowledge people who have helped her along the way. I mean, you can't teach that.
Wow. You're listening to Faith Alive. Our guest is Willie Meyer, and talking about the one of the blessings of Project Bethlehem. And Willie, isn't it, I think, just every day, in our faith journeys, if we open our eyes and our ears to seeing God work, it happens. It happens in ways that sometimes aren't, monumental, but it's sometimes it's just those little things. And I just think, Project Bethlehem, as you mentioned, how many times it's like, well, we don't have a sponsor, or we don't have this gift, or we don't have that, and then something happens. You go, "Okay, God, yeah, you got this. You got this, God." Why would I even doubt? Why would I even, not trust that you would work this out? So I don't know. I mean, it's just what a blessing, isn't it, to be part of, Catholic Charities, La Posada, be part of Project Bethlehem, and see and I believe there are miracles at work. I mean, what's it like for you when you see those and you get those aha moments and you're like, oh, okay, God, yeah, that's another one.
You just sit back and you relax. You just sit back, you relax in the sunshine of His love, and just allow that stuff to soak in, because there are going to be those times and those moments and those days. And if I go back to the young lady who had the twins, I mean, she was not the most pleasant person to be around, and it didn't make a difference what time of day it was. And to see her smiling and working and doing for her family, you can't put a price on it. It's a priceless experience.
You're listening to Willie Meyer, who heads up La Posada and the Project Bethlehem efforts that occurred this past Christmas season. Now, Willie, one of the things that we've been sharing with our other guests on this hour is that the needs don't go away. And La Posada is no different than any one of our other ministries that I think sometimes, and we're so blessed with the generosity and the time of people during the holidays, but Lord knows we have 24/7 facility at La Posada, and we could use help year-round. What are some of the things right now that you could really use, that we could use in the house at La Posada?
We're always in need of diapers. Always in need of diapers. We're always in need of baby wipes. We put together care packages for families that are moving into new living units, housing units. And one of the things that we like to give them is a very sturdy laundry basket. You know, those heavy plastic laundry baskets. It could hold, 30, 40 pounds. And it's much more manageable than carrying your laundry to the laundromat in garbage bags that you end up throwing away. So you're throwing away money at that point. And, to have those sturdy laundry baskets are really kind of important. And so having those kinds of items really goes a long way. We're always looking for brooms and dustpans. This year, I think I had like 5 or 6 parents who requested vacuums, and I think 3 or 4 of them ended up getting vacuums from their sponsors. And you listen to the stories from the sponsors of how they had this much money to work with, and they went out, and you talk about deal shopping and couponing themselves into next year. This one group stretched $1,300 to get almost 44 gifts.
Wow.
Now, with the price of things since post-pandemic, some of those things are like double or triple what they would have cost before the pandemic, and they were still able to get some very good items in a very nice way and make another family happy. I mean, the effort that people went through is just phenomenal. And we're always looking for groups to come in and to assist with any type of minor repairs. And also, we're going to be starting up our community garden across the street. So we're looking for individuals who can, give a couple of hours each week to work in those gardens and pull together some of the weeds and make it a beautiful place in the near South End, which is going through a revitalization, and we're a part of the new of that revitalization in the old South End. And so, those kinds of efforts. We had a group that came in, there was only supposed to be 6, and they ended up having 12, and they got like 8 or 9 projects clicked off in the 5 or 6 hours that they were there. I mean, if I had to spend my time or staff's time to do some of those things, we'd still be working on it in June. They were able to get it done in 5 or 6 hours. And again, it goes back to many hands makes work light. And Amen. So that's the kind of stuff. And that group is going to come back and do things for us on a weekly basis. So, you had that kind of positive experience, and it pays off initially, but then they'll come through and as this group did, and they're going to say, we're coming back. And so we're making some more plans for them.
You're listening to Faith Alive. Our guest is Willie Meyer. Willie, how can people get in touch with you to find out how they can either volunteer or provide some of those items that you mentioned?
They can give me a call at 419-244-5931, or they can send me an email, wmeyer, M-E-Y-E-R, at toledodiocese.org. That's 419-244-5931.
Willie, any final reflections? We got about a minute left on Project Bethelhem and all those who came forward to support and all those who received.
It was a blessing. The blessings went both ways, and you just can't change how that feels.
Yeah. And it's just how blessed are we as a community, as a faith community, to come forward. And first of all, why were we doing this? Well, because we're celebrating the birth of Christ. And as part of that celebration, we come forward, and so many people came forward as sponsors to help all of our offices. And we just want to say thank you to all of you out there who participated and supported and prayed for all of our efforts for Catholic Charities and our ministries. And let us know that, or we want you to know we're praying for you. That's a wrap for this program. Until next week, God bless, and thank you so much for all you did to help with Project Bethelhem.
You've been listening to Faith Alive with Rodney Schuster. For more information about Catholic Charities programs and services, visit CatholicCharitiesNWO.org. You can listen to this and other episodes anytime on demand on the Annunciation Radio mobile app and at AnnunciationRadio.com.